Welcome back, everyone. With heavy spending on defense as well as personnel reshuffling and redeployment, which yielded results, moving the insecurity index a few percentage better. However, the recent security challenges in the northeast and north central parts of Nigeria by jihadist group Boko Haram and ISWAP has shattered that improvement. Just this first quarter of 2025 alone, military bases, police stations, and rural communities have been attacked. But this resurgence of this challenge, the question on the lips of some Nigeria is, will insurgency ever end in this country? And if it will, what strategy must we now adopt vis-a-vis manpower development, technology, religion, or even tactical measures? Let's now get the perspective of my guest tonight, Dennis Amakri, a security consultant. He joins me virtually from the United States. Good evening, Mr. Amakri. Welcome to Politics Tonight.
Good evening.
Thanks
for having me.
With your honest assessment of this recent spate of attacks on innocent Nigerians in the north, what's your evaluation of the current state of Nigeria's defense capabilities?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think our defense capability is it's enough to take care of the insurgency and the bandits that we have right now, because we've spent a lot of money in getting, a lot of armaments. We're still getting new ones, although sometimes the money is not enough because to get a single drone costs a lot, and we are getting enough, but I believe that the problem lies with deployment and at the same time, with our political direction of where to put these armaments to use. Because when you have bandits marauding all over the place, our military is not big enough, is not enough to cover the whole country. Because for one reason or the other, all our militaries are deployed across the 36 states. Now, if they are in 36 states, it becomes very, 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 very inadequate for us to face the bandits who are having new input from foreigners, ISWAP, and all kinds of people to be fighting the Nigerian army.
All right, Mr. Amakri, these following states, you look at Borno State, you look at Plateau and Benue states. These three states have, in the last few weeks seen a resurgence of violent attacks. Governor Babagana Zulum has cried out. For him, this is a signal that, again, his state is losing ground to the terrorists. The governor of Plateau State is helpless at the moment. For him, this is ethnic cleansing. He calls it genocide. He says these are the activities of land grabbers. He says there are powerful persons responsible. I can go on, but at the end of the day, Nigerians are dying every day across the northern states. And the truth is, these attacks are mostly underreported. This is a major setback, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And I will make a very passionate plea to the National Security Advisor, to really concentrate on these particular areas that you've mentioned, especially the one in Plateau. The people are dying. These are Nigerians. Although it could be seen as a retaliatory thing where you come and kill me, I regroup and I go and kill you, because of farm or because of cattle and stuff like that. But Nigerians are dying, So I think the best way is not even to send military there. The best way would be to bring everybody to the table. And then, of course, grind out some kind of commitment from them, and then put an eye on them. I will not count out declaring a state of emergency there because Nigerians are dying on a daily basis. Same thing with Borno. And we cannot sit back and watch these people trying to gain grounds again, because what the governor said was that they're gaining grounds again. Now, the three local government areas are in their hands, and we cannot continue to allow that. That was what happened during the presidency of Jonathan, and they have to flush them out with PMCs, private military contractors. And I don't think it is out of place for us to go out and do that, because I think we need the sanity and the kind of money that we'll be wasting on this particular fight.
So you've just insinuated that perhaps dialogue is the best option to ending this carnage. But my own question is, haven't we explored this option over and over again? Why is it not working?
One thing, again, is that there must be sincerity of purpose when you are dealing with dialogue.
Okay.
I have been personally involved in some in Taraba State. When herders and, farmers were fighting, we bring them down there and then, of course, brought out some, commitment out of them. And there is sincerity. And it is not just having a meeting and then telling, okay, we are now agreed, no more fighting, okay, you can go home. No. You make them committed. Committed in the sense that, of course, government have to appoint somebody who will oversee this process. And then, of course, check on them on a daily basis or on a weekly basis to make sure that everybody is keeping to that agreement. Because I know when farmers go and then the cattle is reared into their farms and then they uproot all the cassava or whatever and eat it, the people will not wait to come back to the state capital again, and they will go and retaliate. But we should have somebody who they can report to, and when they report to the person should take action, and then, of course, make sure that this thing happens. There are many solutions that have been provided, cattle routes and all those kind of things. And of course, we mention them, then we drop them. And that's why I'm saying that there must be sincerity of purpose in trying to solve this problem.
So we'll come back to that in a moment. But tonight you said these are retaliatory attacks. But I've listened to Governor Zulum, who attributed this resurgence to Boko Haram and its breakaway faction. Islamic State West Africa province says these groups have intensified attacks against military formations and civilians in some parts of Borno State. To what extent do you agree with this submission? Is it okay to say this is intelligence gathering? And I'm wondering if there is an iota of truth to this claim.
Well, the thing is that all these different theaters of war have their own unique problems. The retaliatory situation I was talking about was in Plateau State. Okay. Where two cultural or ethnic groups are fighting each other. Now, let's come down to Borno State. In Borno State, we have Boko Haram. More than 10 years we've been fighting them. And then, of course, they've been having different kinds of support from, different people, especially outsiders. And then, of course, we have a lot of people in IDP camps, and the IDP camps are not well run because some of these contractors are seeing it as an avenue to get rich very quickly. So we have to look at things like that. Now, at that same time, our own Nigerian army, and then, of course, the intelligence agencies, DSS, NIA, have to, really do more work on penetration to make sure that, they give the military good intelligence, actionable intelligence to do their work. But like I said, they must be supported. They must be supported because they cannot just do it. You cannot go to a gunfight with a penknife and hope to win. So these guys are being armed, and it is not a secret because even the U.S. government has come out to say that Boko Haram has been funded through USAID. So what's our legislators doing? Why not investigate it properly to find out what is going on? Because when you allow it to be like that, it's like you are sending our security agencies to go and kill themselves. And then, of course, nobody is saying anything. We don't want our security agencies and military to be caught in the middle of this. They should be, supported in fighting this thing once and for all.
And you were very assertive when you said this is a major setback for the Northeast and calls for serious action, rightfully stated by some of these governors as well. But you know, there are security experts now calling for the review or rejuvenation of some of these military operations across the northern states. And to be very specific, last night I was speaking with Dr. Kabir Adamu. He says he was talking about Operation Zadin K, Operation Rainbow, Operation Safe Haven. At this point, Mr. Makri, is this a necessity?
Well, I will agree with my colleague Kabiru Adamu because we've said this, not only him, a lot of security experts that come to the air to say about this. I've been stressing it. You know, some of the things, safe haven, I don't believe in it. Because you see...
Why don't you believe in it, Mr. Makri?
Yes, we have Boko Haram people who will say, okay, we are surrendering. Then they come in, and then we take them in. We give them food, we give them clothes. You know, they said, okay, we'll de-radicalize them, and they will go away. They are on record. There are situations where some of these de-radicalized people went back to the area where they were attacked before, killed everybody, and run back. It is just like Boko Haram trying to send their double agents into Nigeria, you know, to make sure that they penetrate, see how our military will react to them. You know, they come in there and, you know, they do whatever they want to do and then go back. That's why this thing is continuing, because how many are they that started this particular thing, and how many are they right now? And then we'll continue recycling these guys, and then we say, oh, we're doing de-radicalization. I think it's a waste of money, because the kind of money we're using in de-radicalizing them does not make any sense. People who were caught in Afghanistan during the U.S. incursion over there, you know, are still in for Guantanamo Bay in Cuba. They're still locked up. They are still interrogating them. They are still getting information from them. Why are we just forgiving them like that? You know, and then, of course, they will come back and do. These are criminals who have done a lot of things. Let us not be emotional about it to say, oh, these guys are from our ethnic group, or, you know, let's forgive them and stuff like that. They are a veritable threat to the unity of this country, and they've carried arms against Nigeria and should be so dealt with.
But Mr. Makri, Operation Rainbow is state-based. So would you say Operation Rainbow, Operation Safe Haven, and Operation Zadin K all have the same challenges?
Of course they do. They all have the same challenges, you know. But like, you know, my friend mentioned, you know, we cannot continue doing the same thing the same way. You know, we cannot continue doing the same thing. So why don't we change strategy? Okay. And one of those things we can do is to get a PMC. We've tried it before, you know, and if PMC can work, they will come in there, give them 2 weeks, and they'll finish it in 2 weeks and go away. You know, we cannot continue to harbor these guys and be playing chess with them.
All right.
No.
So what exactly would you say is the situation with Plateau States? I mean, the December 2023 massacre is still fresh in our memory. It's very unpleasant to see that killings on the plateau have become a norm. Some say these killings reflect a pattern of ethnic-based violence, inflaming herder farmer tensions. Governor Mothwang publicly acknowledged that there are several atrocities, activities currently going on in some of the communities being taken over by these terrorists. And just like every one of us, the governor is also asking, who are these people?
Okay, the one in Plateau is between ethnic groups. It's between ethnic groups, and people in Plateau, they know, the governor is aware, you know, and the killings are just too much, because when you see people, hundreds of people being killed, and then of course they go ahead and bury, mass burial and stuff like that. We should start valuing the lives of every single Nigerian. I think this is the reason why many Nigerians are not patriotic. Because, you know, we don't value the life. Because somebody will wake up one morning, come around, finish a whole village, and then you see politicians will go there, this will not happen again. They make political statements. And after the political statements, they go away. Or they say, oh, the security agents are going to, the Inspector General of Police will send in about 30,000 policemen to be, patrolling the area. After 2 weeks, it's gone. They are gone. And then wait for another area again. There must be a systematic way in dealing with this. And like I said, this is not terrorists. They are just ethnic groups fighting each other. So there must be some kind of community understanding where we get them together, sit them down on the same table, let everybody voice out what is this problem, and let the government intervene in where it should intervene, and then, of course, commit them to some kind of document, and then, of course, put somebody to monitor what is going on, and so people can live in peace. And if there are people that have gone outside that agreement, I think we should arrest them, prosecute them, and jail them, because we play with the rule of law. Somebody killing another person is criminal. You cannot kill somebody and go away and say, oh, yeah, because they killed your cow, so you are free. You can go away. No. All those criminals should be made examples of. But it's a big task. And I hope that the government have a lot of resources.
How big is this task? And talking about interventions, is it okay to assume that the governor is helpless at the moment?
Well, he should not be feeling helpless. The governor should work with the security agents. I know that some heads of security
he says he's doing that already.
Have been talking with him. Say that again.
He says he's doing that already.
Yes, I know. That's what I'm telling you. Some security, I know that some head of security agencies are talking with him, but I think they have to do more. There must be a plan. There must be a plan. It is not, let me visit the IG of police or the DSS DG, and then we tell them what's wrong with our people and go away. Like I said, there must be commitment, and there must be some kind of plan that this is what we are going to do. Stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, like that. That way, I think everybody is committed.
But also, Mr. Makri, is it possible that, there is a terrorist enclave within these communities that perhaps the state government isn't aware of or difficult to locate?
Oh, yes. There are terrorist enclaves all over Nigeria, and some, especially in Zamfara and Niger State. In those places we call ungoverned spaces. All these ungoverned spaces are spaces that have been occupied by terrorists who came into this country through the porous borders that we have, settling, and then are doing all kinds of havoc. Now, you see, that's another area whereby we have to see whether we have to address those fundamental root causes. The root causes of these problems, start from the border. Because if the border is well monitored, and then you cannot just even try to cross. We know that the security agencies are not so many, even if they have to hold hands, and then they can't cover that border because it's a very extensive border. But there are technologies that can be used at this time, technologies, and then security posts that can be built. Anybody trying to cross that border, should make sure that he's just trying to sacrifice his own life, But we have to look at that border very closely, because these people have crossed in. They do whatever they want to do, and they cross out, they go out, and stuff like that. So it's something that we have to look at very, very strongly.
All right, Mr. Makri, let's take a break, and when we return, we'll continue this conversation. Please stay with us, everyone. Welcome back to Politics Tonight, everyone. Thank you very much for staying with us on the program. Dennis Amakri, security consultant, is my guest tonight as we continue to get insight into finding a permanent solution to this carnage being carried out day in, day out in the northern parts of the country. Thank you so much for staying with us, Mr. Makri.
Thank you.
Right. So we've heard from the NSA, the National Security Advisor is saying enough is enough. Also from the police, the IGP has ordered the immediate and comprehensive deployment of police tactical assets to these affected areas of these three states. The police IGP is talking about this critical intervention with significant reinforcement, additional units of highly trained tactical personnel. I mean, there is a long list of other interventions. Is it about the numbers of deployed personnel or military equipment or strategic operations? What must change?
I think tactics have to change. Tactics. When I heard the National Security Advisor saying that people should not pay ransom again, I was very happy, but the next step has to be taken, and that step is to make sure that there is quick response. Now, the Inspector General of Police have sent in some tactical squads to go in, the Special Intervention Unit, as they call it in the police. Send them in there. But what we need is not just for those three states, but for the whole country. For the whole country. The problem we are having mainly with all these bandits and kidnappings. Remember, kidnapping is a way of sourcing the banditry. Because all those guns they are buying and all the rest, is money from all their ransom money that they are getting. So why don't we just put tactical teams, just something like the SWAT, special weapons and tactics. You have a unit with special weapons and tactics training that are ready to go at any time. When you have a team like that, if there is any reported kidnapping or any reported bandits attacking a village, within 1 hour or 30 minutes, they should respond. And when they respond, they should pursue them and make them very uncomfortable. Kidnapping, I can tell you, is a low-risk, high-yield crime. Low-risk, high-yield. And then because it's easy to kidnap anybody, but people are paying. That's why we're saying don't pay money to any kind of terrorist or kidnapper. Because you collect the money and you go and do whatever you like. So it is difficult to collect the money, and that is what I think the NSA should insist on. Right. Make sure that they can't collect that money.
Right. So let's be clear, Mr. Makri. Is there a place for how protection payments to militias has, escalated conflict in the Northwest, especially in communities where resistance occurs when a community pays a militia to protect them? If they refuse to continue payments, the militia responds with violence to punish the community and instill fear. Would you say this may have, escalated these killings?
You're talking of bandits, yes, not militias. Yes, because some of the militias have been able to take over the place in some local governments, and then, of course, levy taxes on those rural people. Now, remember, that's why I'm saying that we are spread so thin. Our military is busy somewhere else. And these guys have seen that. That's why they are in those areas. And now when they cannot see the presence of government, these people with arms are the only government they know. And the people will tell them, okay, now you pay this kind of money before you can go to your farm. You pay this kind of money every week and stuff like that. And they find out that, yes, the government is not around, so they have to pay that kind of money. And then, of course, go back to their farming where they even eat from their farms, okay? So when they refuse to do that, the bandits, to enforce their own authority over the people, will go ahead and start being very violent with them. And that's why we're saying that we need law enforcement presence. State police have been projected, but Looks like they've shelved it again, you know. Or if we have state police, they will cover all these areas.
But back to Plateau State, when people say it's high time Plateau people defended themselves, is this even realistic? Can they really defend themselves, Mr. Makri?
Well, one thing is this, the initial defense, the first line of defense is the person themselves. The first line of defense is the person. So I heard General T.Y. Danjuma asking people to defend themselves. And they said, how about the guns? And he was telling them that you also go and look for how those people got their gun and then arm yourself. The Nigerian government has not changed the law about personal arms and ammunition, but we know that a lot of people have arms and ammunition, and there are many, many ways. It doesn't have to be a pistol or be an AK-47. There are ways, there are many things. And I think the security agencies can help, by, helping these local people on how to counter these bandits or terrorists, because they are local people too. There is a lady I'm so impressed with in Borno State. I think she goes by the name Aisha. She's a local vigilante, and she have a team. They go out there pursuing these terrorists, and they are very, very scared of her. So this idea of just sitting down and waiting for us, helplessly, should stop. Right. We are at war. I think people should realize that Nigeria is at war. And because we're at war, then everybody should be ready to fight. We have to fight, because if we allow them to, or wait for them to come and hit us, then we call police or army. It's not going to work, because they cannot be everywhere.
And we've seen same dastardly and callous killings in Benue State, same pattern of attacks on the plateau. While armed herders are on the rampage in one part of the state, local bandits are unleashing terror in another part of the state. Are you pleased with the way the government is handling this matter? And what more can be done to secure Benue?
I think that, Jumoke, this is a very serious matter. The government have to change tactics. They have to change tactics, because, this killing and running away and coming back and killing again, I think it's not a very good strategy, because the police cannot just send people down there and say, oh, they've killed some people, let's go there and patrol. After a while, we'll go back again. No. Nigerians are dying. And if Nigerians are dying, the important thing government can do is to make sure that they stem it, where people are not being killed anyhow. And those who kill are brought to book. We don't even have prosecution. We don't have a list of people that have been arrested and prosecuted for what they have done. When Nigeria was faced with a problem of armed robbers after the war, the government at that time decided that if you are caught as an armed robber, you'll be shot at Victoria Island at the Bar Beach, what they call the Bar Beach show. And of course, it lessened that whole thing, where armed robbers cannot just, with impunity, just start robbing people on the highway and stuff like that. But you have to maintain this kind of process, because if you don't maintain it, they will regather again, regroup, and then come back again. Because they are watching government as much as government is trying to look for them. They are also watching.
I mean, interestingly also, about 4 or 5 times tonight, Mr. Makri, you said government must change tactics. But we've seen reports of northern stakeholders alleging that banditry now business venture for government officials and security agents. Is this statement a fact or a myth? Do you think this should be investigated?
I think any kind of allegation has some kind of truth in it and should be investigated. Because I can tell you right now, there are people who don't want this thing to end. They don't want it to end because they are making a lot of money. You know, there are people who are supporting terrorists, and they don't want people who are supporting, who are selling petrol to them, people who are selling food to them. Remember, these terrorists are in the bush and they eat every day. So who is supplying the food? Who is supplying the petrol they use in their motorbikes? You know, and these people, because of the kind of money they get, will not want this thing to stop because they are really enjoying out of it. And of course, we've arrested even some military people who are busy, you know, even trying to edit the money that is meant for arms purchase or whatever. So these things happen. In any war, people will make money. That's why it's called a criminal economy. And the criminal economy is a very rich economy, you know, and many people don't want to, you know. Gun runners are making a lot of money. AK-47 in the black market is more than 500,000 naira. Just one. So who is supplying them all these arms and ammunition? You know, and this is what we have to do. If we pursue the money, we pursue the supply line, the supply chain, and cut it off, then I think we'll be heading towards some kind of solution.
And you know, perhaps for the purpose of clarity or emphasis, when you say, when it comes to dialogue, there must be sincerity of purpose. I wonder what you mean by that. Because last year, I remember the Vice President, Kashif Shettima, says, military offensives alone could not sustainably resolve the security crisis in Nigeria's northwest. He was very particular about the northwest. He says rather it would take a mix of kinetic and non-kinetic strategies to restore calm in this troubled region. For non-kinetic approach, which you and your colleagues call restorative justice, do you think one of the major problems is that the peace deals negotiated so far are badly flawed and amateurishly executed? Is that what you mean?
Well, you see that nomenclature of kinetic and non-kinetic, I don't really subscribe to them, because what is on ground here now is how to stop the war, how to stop it. And of course, if we don't, the kinetic, basically what they're talking about is military force.
Yes.
And yes, military force can work because what the enemy is using is military force. And we cannot allow them to be using guns and trying to kill our people while we try to say we want to do non-kinetic, So we have to. And if we are going to do that, we have to, invest in new technology, I know we started this thing with Tucano jets, Apache helicopters and stuff like that. But you find out that the uses of this equipment are diminishing. Right now, even the war in Ukraine right now is drones. It's drones. I think Nigeria should invest seriously in drones, because the drone warfare is where it is now. And we have different kinds of drones, especially predator drones that, can go in and do whatever they want to do and come back. So if they want to use guns, let's go and show them how to use guns, And of course, if we want to do the non-kinetic part of it, I think basically the non-kinetic to me is how to take care of the communities.
Okay.
The human relations, education. Because an uneducated man will always go to Boko Haram if he feels that he doesn't have a job and Boko Haram is promising him some money to come so that he can, have a living. It's not that they believe in what they are doing, but he's going there to look for a job that will feed him and his family. So how far are we taking care of these communities? That's another area that we have to look at. So the non-kinetic side of it is to make sure that these people are guarded. We don't go and drive away now.
So it shouldn't be about dialogue.
dialogue is another part of it. Dialogue is another part of it. You know,
but why should we dialogue with these bandits if indeed we are at war?
We are not. It's not a matter of dialoguing per se. You know, we have an example in Nigeria where we have the Niger Delta militants when they started, and then of course they have an objective. And because of that objective, you know, the government decided that, oh, come, let us sit down and talk about what you're saying. And the government saw reason in it and then went ahead and then did one or two things, you know, which stopped it. Now, for these guys, these are criminals. And these guys are actually, destroying things. They were, you know, killing people, sacking a whole village, and stuff like that. So why do you want to sit down and dialogue with somebody like that? You know, I think you will, if there is supposed to even be dialogue, let us fight them to a level where they will come and ask for that dialogue. They will come and surrender and say they want to talk. It is not when you surrender, it's okay, come in, no problem, you are forgiven. You know, but they should be pressed in such a way that they can come in and then ask for that. And then, of course, the government will decide whether they want to dialogue with them or not.
All right. Mr. Margaret, let me also ask you about interagency collaboration in tackling insecurity. In your own assessment, have we seen an improvement in intelligence gathering among sister agencies? What more must our security agencies do, you know, to move from reactionary response to proactive, to being proactive?
Yes, I think the intelligence sharing has improved fantastically. You know, it has improved a lot. In fact, the relationship between the service chiefs have improved also, you know, a lot. Because when you look at it, we have before, when we have the service chiefs that all were operating in silos. They were all operating in silos, and everybody was doing his thing. Everybody was trying to impress the president, commander-in-chief of the armed forces. It didn't work. It didn't work at that time. But at least I'll give it to the present NSA right now. And the DGSSS, since he came on board, I think there has been some kind of rapport where the service chiefs, Army, Navy, and Air Force, and of course the National Security Advisor have always put their heads together. I think what they need is funding. You know, people will say, oh, we spend a lot of money on these people.
I wanted to say same.
Yes, we spend a lot of money on these people, but I can tell you, how much do you think a drone costs? And then when you look at the budget, you know, they'll give them some kind of budget. And then, of course, people will say, oh, they have the highest budget. But we know the system in Nigeria. If they give you 10 billion, you at the end of the year or by the middle of the year, you might not even have got five or half of that money that was appropriated. So it is important that the legislators should make sure that the security agencies get their money. It is not when something happened, then you call them to the National Assembly and be questioning them, why did it happen? Everybody knows why it happened. And that's why I'm saying that I think we should withdraw a lot of politics out of the security business, you know, because they are mixing security and politics together, and that is not very, very palatable. So withdraw a lot of politics out of it, allow the security agencies to do what they know best to do, and they will bring results.
All right. So, I mean, I would have loved for us to talk about, you know, addressing the threats posed by IEDs in Nigeria and in recognizing the urgent need to strengthen counter-IEDs efforts in the country and whether or not government had done or government is doing enough on their own part. But, you know, Senator Shehu Sani had advocated for the National Assembly to revisit the Firearms Act. Do you think we must begin to amend the obsolete Firearms Act to align with global best practices at this moment?
Yes, I agree. I agree very, very much. The thing is that I was against people, just allowing people to have firearms. Because when they have firearms, Nigerians are wonderful people. If a man's wife does not cook before he comes back to work, he's angry, he might shoot her, because he's hungry. Or somebody scratched my car on the road, I come out, do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? And then the next thing you see a gunshot, okay? So people can have arms, but it must be controlled. It must be controlled. There is no gun, like in the United States here. Pick up a gun somewhere or even fire somebody and run away. If they get the bullet, the casing of the bullet, they will trace that to your gun. There must be serious control whereby, all the guns are registered and they know who have them. Those who can, are trained to have them are having them, and then you can defend yourself.
All right, then. Mr. Makere, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It was important for us to have this conversation with you. Let me thank you so much for finding time to join us. Dennis Amakre, security consultant, thank you so much for joining us this Friday. Thank you. We appreciate it. Thank you so much. And thank you very much for watching, everyone. That marks the end of today's episode of Politics Tonight. But before we go, let's tell you that the views and reactions of our resource persons are theirs and have no connection with TVC News. Meanwhile, you can watch the repeat broadcast of this episode at midnight. Get in touch with us on our social media handles, Facebook, Instagram, and X at TVC News NG and at Olajumo KW using the hashtag Politics Tonight. We're also on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I am Olajumo Olatuji. Please have a great weekend.